and he's about to start speaking. Let's listen in.
Now look, a whole lot of people running for president these days. 2020 election does not stand for the year, it stands for the number of people running, 2020. But you all know in this room where power comes from. It doesn't come from an individual or an office, it comes from the grassroots. You all are the power. You all are the purpose. You all are what's going to help us win. Look, I live in a low-income inner-city community. We don't mistake wealth with worth where I live. We know where power comes from. Look, I want to tell you the truth. When I first came to the inner city of Newark, New Jersey, the neighborhood I still live in, I had this idea coming as a Yale law student that I was going to help turn around the country. I was going to lead things. But I met a grassroots leader who was a tenant president in the projects in which I lived for almost a decade. And I still remember when I told her, she goes, "Why are you here?" "I'm here to help you." And she goes, "If you want to help me, you got to come down to the street and tell me what you see in my neighborhood." And she goes, "Describe what you see." And I described the projects and an abandoned building being used for drugs. I talked about the graffiti and I described what I saw. But the more that I talked, the more this woman looked at me like she was upset with me. And I finally said, "What's wrong?" And she goes, "Boy, you need to understand something. The world you see outside of you is a reflection of what you have inside of you. And if you're one of those people who looks around my community and all you see is problems and darkness and despair, that's all there's ever going to be. But if you're one of those people who every time you open your eyes, you're stubborn, you see hope, you see opportunity, you see love, then you can be one of the people that helps me." I want to tell you, a lot of folks are talking about themselves, but I want to talk about you. Because what I learned in the city of Newark, eventually becoming the mayor of that city, that the hope for our community did not lie in one individual in one office. It lied with the people and our ability to come together and stand together and work together and fight together and win together. And so let me tell you right now, a lot of people want to make this election all about Donald Trump. Well, let me tell you, I'm running for office because we will beat Donald Trump. But let me tell you, that's not all we need to do. Beating Donald Trump is the floor, it's not the ceiling. Beating Donald Trump gets us out of the valley, but it does not get us to the mountaintop. I'm running for office because I believe that we as a people can get to the mountaintop. I'm not running because of what we're against. We as a party must stand up for what we're for. We are for, in the United States of America, once and for all, health care being a right for all Americans. We are for every job in America having a living wage, the right to organize, the right to retire with security. We are for public education and making sure that public school teachers are paid what they are worth and raising their salaries. We are for ending the school-to-prison pipeline. We are for standing up to make sure that we don't stick our head in the ground on climate change, but this is the nation that leads us out of this crisis. I want you all to know this election has to be about us. So many people think that we want to make it all about him. I walked into a town hall up in Iowa. A man comes up to me, puts his arm around me before I spoke and says, "Hey man, I want you to punch Donald Trump in the face." And I look at that guy and I go, "Hey man, that's a felony." We will not beat Donald Trump by fighting him using his tactics, on his turf, on his terms. He wants this election to be about hate. We better make it about love. He wants to make this election about tearing people down. We're going to make it about building people up. He wants to make this election about dividing folks. We are going to unite this country and put more indivisible into this one nation under God. I want you all to know, I still go home to Newark. We had 7 people shot in my community just last week. The problems we face were going on before Donald Trump was in office. We live in a perilous time. We could be the first generation of Americans to have lower life expectancy than our one before. We see this nation now, baby boomers, 95% did better economically than their parents. We're down to 50-50. I know we got to beat Donald Trump, but there's something else in the balance. This is not a referendum on him. It's a referendum on who we are to each other. And we are a nation of love. And so I want to tell you right now, they made a mistake giving me a hammer. I want to tell you all right now, where Martin Luther King was slain, I was taught by that woman on the 5th floor of the projects that hope is the active conviction that despair will never have the last word. Where Martin Luther King was slain, they decided not to write a tribute to him. They decided to write a challenge to us. Where King was slain, there is words there that are Joseph's words, Joseph's brother's words that they uttered before they grabbed him and threw him into a ditch. These are the words that are written where King is slain, a challenge to us. The words from Genesis, it says, "Behold, here cometh the dreamer, let us slay him and see what becomes of the dream." Well, this is a referendum on the dream. We now in our generation have to stand up and dream again, bold dreams and defiant dreams, dreams of love, dreams that our ancestors fought and died for. And I want to ask you, South Carolina, will you stand and dream with me again? Will you dream America again? Will we dream this country anew? Bold dreams, defiant dreams. If we dream together and work together and love together, we won't just beat Donald Trump, but we will make it to the mountaintop and we will get to the promised land. Thank you. Thank you, South Carolina. It's time for the dream again.
Back with me, Jason Johnson, political. I'd like to welcome my next guest here at the South Carolina Democratic Party Convention, presidential candidate and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Senator Booker.
Reverend, it's good to be on with you, and I just want to give you a personal thank. My home church, Metropolitan Baptist Church, you preached, you brought it.
Yeah, I was there last Sunday.
People still talking about it. I'm sorry I wasn't there to greet you.
I do it every Father's Day. You're usually there with us.
Yes.
You made a rousing speech, really bringing the crowd to the mountaintop in memory of Dr. King. You have a huge contingent here. What is your message in South Carolina, and what do you think South Carolina will mean to your campaign?
Well, this is home turf to me. I've been coming to this state. My dad grew up right over the border in Hendersonville, North Carolina. I've been coming here since I was a kid. And as a guy who has been the chief executive of a city, and you know Newark, which like many communities here, been left out, left aside, looked down on. I'm here to tell South Carolina, number one, I will be the candidate that focuses on the issues of the people in this state because they're personal to me. But even more than that, too many Democrats see this as a stepping stone to a nomination and a presidency. This is a blue state. People like Jamie Harrison running for senator. We could win the races that we're not winning right now. So I'm looking forward to building a party from the grassroots up. That was the message in my speech. It's not about the candidates. I listen to a lot of these speeches. We have a lot of agreement up there. What it's really about is about igniting the grassroots so that we can become a 50-state party and begin to have the power we need to actually transform healthcare in this country, raise the wages in this country, revive and restore public education to the greatest on the planet in this country. We have a big agenda that we're going to need. You know, politics is a team sport. We need to get a lot more people elected, and we do that by empowering the grassroots. That's the kind of leader I want to be.
We heard today the president, after talking with Nancy Pelosi last night, has extended sending ICE out to apprehend illegal immigrants. How do you react to that?
I'm angry. This kind of fear-mongering, these mass deportations, the kind of threat that he put into communities. I live, again, in Newark. And the fear is so big in those communities that people are afraid to come out of their homes. These are people with American spouses, American children. It's tearing apart families. It's hurting people. We create a much safer community when we don't have this kind of bullying, this kind of fear-mongering, these kind of threats to deport people that in many ways, from dreamers to people who've been in this country for decades, we need to have an immigration plan that has pathways to citizenship and doesn't create such broad-scale fear. And if he thinks he's going to try to intimidate us into capitulating to his outrageous immigration policies, his wall and more, he has another thing coming.
You were at the hearings, public hearings on reparations, H.R. 40. You are sponsoring the Senate version.
Yes, I was proud to testify in that historic moment.
Why was that important to you?
Because
this is reparation for descendants of African.
Because you and I both know a lot of the profound inequities we have here in America today, from economic inequities to inequities in the healthcare system to, as Michelle Alexander calls it, the new Jim Crow, which we see in our criminal justice system. These are all legacies of white supremacy, bigotry, slavery that go deep to laws that we had in our land well into the 60s and 70s that purposely excluded African Americans. And we've got to find a way to create equality in our country to address these past ills and set us on a trajectory for more success. Not just for black people, because when a child is denied denied the opportunity to manifest their genius, we all suffer as a result for it. And so this is something we should be bringing the best. My legislation in the Senate, picked up from the House, would bring the best minds in our country to figure out how to address these past ills and get us on a pathway to equality for all, which is a common value in our country.
We just watched former Vice President Joe Biden address this convention. You called on him this week to apologize for his statements about working with people like former Senator Eastland, or the late Senator Eastland and others, who are outright racist and segregationists. He called you. What happened on the phone call, and has he apologized, or do you feel he still needs to?
Well, let me be clear about this. I work across the aisle with folks that I disagree with a lot, and that's not the issue. In fact, we need to have a country that can work across our gaps and our gulfs more. What he said, though, the way he said it, caused a lot of hurt and harm in communities like the one I live in by saying, hey, this avowed racist called me son, didn't call me boy. Well, it evoked a lack of understanding and ignorance, a hurtful ignorance, that the reason why he called you son, the power dynamics here is that he sees you as a person that could be his child. The reason why he calls black people boy is to degrade and dehumanize them, a grown man. And so that to me was something that showed he shouldn't need that lesson, and he should understand that he's trampling on hurtful, harmful words and history. And so we had a conversation about it. I've said my piece, he said his. I was a little taken aback that before our conversation he said somehow I should apologize to him. I make no apology for speaking truth to power, especially at a time that we're going to need leaders in our party that can unify us, elevate us, bring us together. And what he said is he did not show that spirit that we need, especially going into a fight against Donald Trump, where we're going to need to be able to energize, organize, and frankly bring together all of our party, our diverse party.
If he's nominated, could you support him?
Absolutely. Whoever is our nominee, I trust our people, I trust our party. I will fall behind that person, and you will not find another candidate that's more committed to seeing whoever is nominated. But I believe that I will be the nominee, and I believe that because I believe I can unify our party. I can speak to the higher aspirations and urgencies of a time when we're too divided. We need to heal, we need to come together, and we need to be a nation that addresses the persistent injustices. So I have a lot of respect for Vice President Biden, a lot of gratitude for him and his years of service. For me, though, I was taught as a young man that being nice and being kind often means you say the difficult things to people, even those that you love, that you don't try to sweep it under the rug or ignore it. And we need to have the difficult conversations in our country, even with those people we respect, especially if they might have a chance of going on and leading. I hope this has been a learning moment for him, and I hope he does not tread upon those tired racist tropes that have so hurt people in the past.
You will be in the debates this week. First debate Wednesday night. What is your plan at the debate that will distinguish you without being divisive?
you know, these are wonderful opportunities for all of us. We have such an extraordinary field, from luminaries and veterans like Joe Biden to a lot of new folks on the stage. It's extraordinary, and so my view of this is it's a chance to put your heart and your spirit as well as your ideas before the American people. It's not, I don't think you're going to see a bunch of fighting amongst us, because we all, in many ways, agree with the same ambitions of extensively more access to health care, raising wages in this country. But I want to let folks know specifically what my ideas are, and I want them to understand my heart, my passion, and my experience, having been the chief executive of New Jersey's largest city and a senator that got major pieces of legislation like the First Step Act, criminal justice reform, done in the United States Senate.
Many thanks to you, Senator Cory Booker, for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
We're not done yet.